Welcome back to World Traveler Commentary. Now, this morning I was reading an article in The Guardian about how ethnic Russians in Estonia are feeling more and more isolated and beleaguered due to sort of the war fever gripping the country. What's particularly worrisome from my perspective is that when I've looked at the comments I've gotten from people who are in favor of rounding up Russian citizens and deporting them from the EU, including foreign workers and so forth, a large part of these actually, none of them, to my knowledge, have come from Estonia. Within the EU, they've all come from Poland. So there are even more extreme parts of the EU than Estonia in this regard. I'm of the opinion that social bonds are what build society, and that we need to make sure that we have inclusive societies, including for minority communities and the like. I think that the efforts in some cases to exclude ethnic Russians, sometimes in the Baltic states, including Estonia, have some real implications in cases like this. Some of the people mentioned in The Guardian were not eligible for Estonian citizenship despite the fact that they had lived in Estonia their entire lives. Now, in my view, we have social duties to those who are nearer to us more than people who are distant. This is something which flies in the face of liberalism, I know, but you think about it. Your family, you have you have duties to your parents, your spouse if you're married, your kids, if you have them. Then neighbors, colleagues, things like that. Then your town or city, maybe then the country that you're in, maybe then, anyway, concentric circles outward. If we damage these sorts of bonds, then we make ourselves completely capable of gross injustice. The Great Expulsion of 1492 is a good example. As I've mentioned before, my ancestors were expelled from Spain in that expulsion. They found shelter, by the way, in the Russian Empire for the next 400 years. So the bonds that we have, especially to those near us, are things which are important to maintain for a couple of reasons. Number one, we only learn from disagreement. If you actually go out to talk to somebody who has a different perspective on this war, maybe you'll learn something. It might not change your mind, it might not make you decide that you don't support now, but it might cause you to have a slightly different perspective, and over time, while none of us control how anybody else changes their minds, hearing multiple perspectives enables us to come to a greater understanding of events, a greater understanding of each other, and so forth. So my view is that making sure that we properly support civic conversations over difficult issues is critically important. Again, for our own growth as well as for the maintenance of the societies in which we find ourselves. So, I want to say one other thing kind of in Estonia's defense here, and I think this is really important. The actual formal steps that Estonia is talking about taking regarding restricting visas to enter Estonia from Russia do take into account, I think, the most important things, which are family visits, allowing those still, making sure that they're not talking about kicking out anybody with a Russian passport right now. Although people are afraid to voice an opinion because, hey, they'll deport me if I, say, hey, look, maybe these sanctions are hurting us more than they're hurting Russia. These are things that we've got to address. So I'm going to end this with a brief call to action. And that is that if you have neighbors who happen to be from Russia, or you have colleagues who happen to be from Russia, or if you have colleagues or neighbors who happen to be from Ukraine, doesn't matter, okay? But anybody affected by this terrible conflict, I think it's really important to reach out to them and, let them know that you support their rights to continue their life where they are as such. No political agreements ought to be necessary for that. I come from the United States, and out of all the countries I've lived in, the United States abuses immigrants more than anybody else. We like to pride ourselves as being a nation of immigrants, and Democrats like to pride themselves as being better than Republicans in this regard, but they're not. I've watched Democrats pass law after law after law targeting immigrants. I've watched Republicans enforce those laws with really heartless mechanical interpretation. And I've watched what this does to communities. I am therefore entirely uncompromising on this point. There's nothing that can supersede our duties to build a society with our neighbors. To build workplaces with our colleagues. So, please go out and express your support to those who have been harmed or who may be feeling very insecure or very isolated by these events. Kindness there's far too little kindness in the world. And that's our responsibility. That's all I have for you today. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.